A cold case, unlike any other.
Something that'll stick forever in your mind.
An infant frozen to death.
There's a small child laying on the road covered up with a white sheet.
The parents nowhere to be found.
We have DNA from the child.
Tonight we ask what really happened.
This is one of the stories that has never gone away.
Are investigators any closer
I truly believe that somebody here knows something.
to finding the truth behind one of Geauga County's worst tragedies?
From the station that sees the possible, this is Channel 3 News, brought to you by the Calvetta Brothers Floor Show. It's time to fall in love again with your home. And now, Channel 3 News at 7.
Good evening, everybody. On a Wednesday night, I'm Chris Ty. Jimmy is off. We begin with this. If you've heard this story before, you will remember it because it's simply a story you can't forget. It was this time of year, 23 years ago, that the small community of Thompson Township was rocked by an unthinkable tragedy. An abandoned baby was left to die in the cold, and those responsible were never found. The tragedy has haunted the Geauga County Sheriff's Department ever since, which continues to investigate to this day. They recently gave our own Andrew Horansky an exclusive look into where the case stands now. This is one of those, as you mentioned, Andrew, you just simply don't forget.
You certainly cannot, Chris. That is because the victim here was an infant boy denied everything from the moment he took his first breath. Love, warmth, even a name. The opportunity at a life stripped the moment it began. Today, we still don't know exactly what happened in his first hours, but we do know decades later that he has not been forgotten. At first, it looks like any other section of the Maple Grove Cemetery, until you read the graves and listen.
You know, things like this aren't supposed to happen.
It's the ones that involve children that stay with you.
I can't even imagine.
Here in the children's section, each grave has a name, except this one, where Geauga's child is all that's there.
Authorities are looking at hospital records and even in local schools.
His story began on March 25th, 1993, when two newspaper carriers discovered the body of a newborn boy along Sidley Road in Geauga County. He had no clothing on and may have been mauled by animals. Yet what witnesses found most surprising was that no one even seemed to know where he came from.
Something that'll stick forever in your mind.
Sergeant Tom Dewey, now retired from the Geauga County Sheriff's Office, thought he was seeing a discarded doll.
The first thing got to me when I looked at it, I said, why? How? We wanted to know, was the child alive? Did it breathe any air, or was it born dead?
Questions soon answered by the coroner, confirming he had lived, then died from exposure.
We have determined that the infant was Caucasian, that the infant was less than 6 months old, and that had been in the elements at least 12 hours.
Over the years, deputies had dozens of leads.
We are investigating it. It's still under investigation, and we are working on this case daily.
But no arrests. And today, the case now lies in the hands of Detective Juanita Vetter, who wonders what really went wrong.
The umbilical cord was still attached to the baby, so it was not long from time of birth to the time that the baby was left on Sidley Road, not long.
The only ones to come forward at the time were concerned members of the community who paid for the handmade clothes Geauga's child wore for his funeral and burial. Investigators wondered if his parents were among them, waiting for the right moment to speak up. Sergeant Dewey wondered too, wanting to know if they ever came to this grave, a grave he still visits.
I would sleep a lot better at night knowing I solved this case.
13 years ago, we went back with him and saw just how much the people of Thompson Township still cared.
You wonder what the parents think at this point.
I think they'd like to know who the baby was. I think the baby at least deserves to have a proper name.
Geauga County Sheriff Dan McClellan still agrees.
An identity, a history for the child. Can we bring it peace?
So much has changed over the years, including technology and the law. It might be easier today to identify the parent.
We have DNA from the child. We can match it up to the mother or the father.
Detective Vetter points out women at the time had fewer options since Ohio's safe haven law wasn't in effect.
They were stuck, they were trapped, and there was nowhere to go.
How investigators sometimes feel today, hoping the mystery of Geauga's child might be solved.
I can only pray that it will.
Hoping the next lead may be the one.
People call us, and I think that 23 years later, it's time for that individual to come up and step up to the plate.
Hoping for an end. It's been said time heals wounds, but here it's just a reminder of how long an innocent child's case goes unsolved, feeling colder with each passing year. Do you think it's too late?
It's never too late. It's never too late. It's not too late to rewrite history.
We will continue to work it as the sheriff's office. It will continue to be worked. Baby deserves that.
If there is ever to be an end to this, investigators say it will have to come from someone who steps forward with new information. Chris, they say they have simply exhausted their leads.
Remarkable story, Drew. So we know now that the authorities have the baby's DNA. Can you
do.
explain for us what would it take to match that against the would-be parents?
They would be able to match it against a mother or a father if they were able to find a match at this point. It's a simple swab, Chris. All they have to do is swab the inside of your cheek and they can tell whether or not you are in fact that child's parent. I understand that they have gone as far away as Alabama to try to match people who have been suspected in this case, but again, so far they have not found a match anywhere.
They've done due diligence. Quickly before you leave, tell us about Ohio's safe haven law. This is relevant here, and it would have been meaningful if it was on the books back then.
And that's what investigators are talking about. If only this had been in place, it's possible that this child could have been left at a fire station, a police department, even a hospital, and that they worry that the mother here may have been a victim too. Scared, we don't know the circumstances, we may never know the circumstances, but that child could have been 23 years old, had that law been put into effect, and that baby been taken to anywhere else than, of course, where he ended up.
And if anybody has any information, Geauga County Sheriffs.
Would love to hear from you.
Okay, thanks so much, Andrew. Appreciate it.